tell the difference between a girl who is sending signal versus a girl who is just being nice, because there's a certain degree of warmth that you will find with the American girls. A lot of people of African descent that live outside Africa are single, thoroughly single. And having lived abroad for nearly more than almost half of my life, I can tell you for a fact that navigating the dating world as an adult in the Western world as a black person is something else. So that's what I want to talk with you about in the next 10 minutes. I want to hear your opinion as well. And again, whatever I share specifically focuses on my life and the people around me. So it's possible I'll say something that doesn't match your experience. So again, don't go crazy thinking that I'm being very myopic in my views. All I'm saying is that I simply speak for a very limited group of folks that I interact with. So let's talk about the challenge of dating as an adult, as a black person living outside Africa. Welcome to Unodidity, guys. Thank you so much for joining our world. We truly appreciate your support. Many folks, especially I'd say in the last 3 months, have joined the team. We've got quite a few subscribers joining, and you make our videos go much further. So if you come back and watch our videos regularly, please just check. Just check if you're a subscriber. Do so and help us grow this channel. Well, thank you again for everything you do. I don't take it for granted. What you do really matters, makes a difference. This vlogging thing is very intense. Behind the camera, there's a whole lot more that goes on that you don't know. It takes so much of my time. Sometimes I feel like I need to take a break. But just when I'm about to take a break, then you keep me going. It's very hard. So your support really matters a lot. But before we talk about issues dating as black folks outside Africa, I want to share, of course, if you're new to my channel, I do a lot regarding supporting people's journey to Africa. So if you need help with that, just reach out. Whether it means finding property, building, buying land, paperwork, and things like that, reach out. I'm happy to connect you with people who obviously know way more than I do. Currently, I'm in the process of returning to the village. I've been out abroad for two decades. And it's taking me a while, but we're making it work. We are not giving up because the African dream is real. We are living it, and this is exactly what I'm wishing for you. And it doesn't matter whether you're a person of African descent or not. They're just people who really enjoy life in the village or life in Africa. If you're one of those, reach out and let's see what we can do with you over here. But that said, let me start by sharing my personal experience. First of all, when I moved to the US, I was a young adult. Of course, I wasn't old enough. I mean, I could have been married by then. In fact, I know for sure that if I lived in Kenya, I would have been married way young. In fact, many of my peers have much older kids in college and all that. But it's fine. But when I left, of course, I had to start all over. And the dating world in America can be very different, especially for those of us who come from villages. And so, those of us who find themselves single arrive at that point for different reasons. One, there are people who I say maybe contextually single. And by that I mean they've left their better halves elsewhere and they're out there. And so their world is also different. So that would be for another video. And then there are people who are single for reasons beyond their control, which is where a lot of us actually fit in. Many of us are single for reasons really beyond our control. There are people who are single because they're divorced. They're in the middle of life. Things happen. Either they moved with their spouses or met people in diaspora, started life, and things didn't work out. And that's fine. Things happen. And then there are people who have just never had, I would say, the luck of finding the right people in their lives. I've got friends who, I would say, for some reason, end up every single time they date, they find themselves with people who are less than ideal in terms of what they desire. So they date, after a while, nothing really goes as far as what they want. And when you compare men and women, which are the two groups that I'm much more familiar with, typically I would dare to say that I think the dating world is slightly easier for men than it is for women, for a number of reasons. Number one, I think in the spaces we find ourselves, both as immigrants and non-immigrant black people, I tend to see a lot more single eligible young women than there are single eligible men. I'm not sure why, because I work at a university which currently, both in Kenya and in the US, the majority of students are female. There's reasons to explain all that. And so, just by the virtue of where you work, typically you'll find more women than men. However, there are certain work environments where it's the exact opposite. Depending on what work it is, there are places where you hardly find women. But in the spaces I find myself, both professionally and socially, you typically find way more women than men. Like right now, if you call for a single meetup, whether you're doing it in church or you're doing it at work, the majority of folks who will show up are women. So I think in terms of just the ratio alone, I think the numbers don't typically favor women. And then culturally speaking, a lot of the girls that I know coming from Africa are socialized to believe that they are chaste and not the other way around. So the girls in my circles rarely make the first move, at least not obviously. And so they find themselves in a position where it feels as if the decision to go forward with the relationship is, for the most part, on the man's side. But of course, some girls are very good at making you think that you're doing the chasing when it's actually the reverse. So, apart from the ratios, then you have cultural expectations that make it difficult for women to simply approach women, hey, here's what I want, and all that stuff. And for some of us, I know men who, when they approach, they hardly take the girls seriously when it's the girls approaching them. And then that said, the other challenge that some of our girls face is that we have men, especially men in my circles, who are also socialized to think of women as this ideal woman who should be subservient. Yes, sir, yes, sir, I'll clean your feet and all that stuff. And so our girls have a hard time engaging with men who are socialized to think that way. Because you have men who will expect to be cooked for, get the laundry done, all that stuff. When the reality of life in diaspora doesn't always lend itself to that kind of life. And so it may make it really difficult. And some of our girls feel like they have to compromise a lot in order to maintain relationships. And besides that, the other massive problem that our girls face is that there's also a group of men who, and this is a very new phenomenon to me, who have this idea that women represent an opportunity. And so when they interact with women, the first thing they're thinking about is, what can I get out of this woman? And a lot of our diaspora women worry about that, particularly the ones who are divorced, because they will meet men who, of course, are ready to get things going, they light the fire, when at the back of their mind, they're simply calculating, looking at what they can get out of that woman. And once they come in, get what they need, they're out. I can't tell you how many stories I hear of single girls within my circle who start dating only to realize that the men they interact with are only interested in what they quote unquote bring to the table. And so, what I always tell the girls around my circle is that separating those two groups is not very difficult. That is, men who will care about you genuinely versus men who are looking for you for what you quote unquote bring to the table. I say, for the first year or two, if you can make sure that not a single part of your money goes to them, if you can do that for at least a year, I'm telling you, you're going to weed out a lot of this soother you're going to run into. So all I say is just do an experiment. Try and not spend any money on him for a year or two. If he survives up to the second year, chances are he is one person who showed up because of something else other than what you could or would bring to the table. But where in Nani? Many of the girls in my circles, I'll tell them that, they'll, yeah. Next thing you know, it's 3 months later, they've spent so much money on this Sude who wipes them out and then moves on. So I say, if you can, hold off. I know you are excited, you want to help and all that stuff, there's things going on. If you can hold on to your money for at least a year or two and he survives, you're probably good. And then, of course, sometimes I have a small group of girls, not a whole lot, a small group of girls who have an extensive list, a very long list of what they want. And I'll tell you for sure, the average African man that I know who meets maybe a 40-something-year-old woman, a 50-something-year-old woman, with a very long list of their requirements, will probably walk away. And so I'm not saying you should settle, but all I'm saying is whatever list you have, How long is it? What's really critical in it? Because we all have our faults, we all have our weaknesses. Sometimes there are lists that may not help. I've got girls in my circle who say they're just looking for white men. I mean, for whatever reason, they're just looking for white men. And I don't know whether there's a store for white men that are just lining up looking for black girls. I'm sure they're there, but those kinds of things sometimes may end up limiting your dating prospects. And then, of course, when you think about folks who are in their middle age, maybe around, let's say, 50s, 60s, either divorced, have lives they've lived on, at that point, many folks are really may not even be interested in marriage per se. At that point, many people just desire human companionship. And so, when you meet men whose priorities are different in that respect, it may make it very difficult for young women in that age to move forward with the relationship. And lastly, the last group of men that I met, and this is a small group of men, who are planning on coming back to Africa. And they tell me that all they want are girls who are planning to move back to Africa. And that can be a deal breaker. So this is part of the reason why we are getting together in December 29th. We'll get together in Kisumu. If you're a person of African descent or you're a person who loves life in Africa and you will be in Kenya, come connect with us. Maybe you might find somebody interesting. I don't do connections because I don't know how to connect wires, and when things break, I don't want to be responsible for all of that. Usually what I can do is to create an opportunity for people to get together. And so if you see each other, that's your problem. So folks, I'd be curious to know more about you. Oh, I forgot about one more thing. The cultural differences too also magnify themselves in terms of signals. I remember when I first moved to the US, I could not tell the difference between a girl who is sending signal versus a girl who is just being nice, because there's a certain degree of warmth that you will find with the American girls, that they simply express that as somebody who is trying to be friendly. Yet, even when they are trying to signal you, it's hard to tell the difference. As a Kenyan, for example, when I meet a Kenyan girl who likes me, that was when I was still single, I would see that from a mile away. With these American girls, I couldn't tell the difference. And so oftentimes I'd be missing signals. Oftentimes I would see something and misinterpret their warmth to mean that there's more to it. So again, those cultural differences can also be a challenge for those of us who are transitioning. All right, folks, I'm curious to hear about your experience. Tell me more in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next. Thank you.